Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Wednesday, January 26th Parks and Recreation meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and nature thereof this evening? And I'm just going to have to move my screen around, and I don't see any. Just for this evening, if anybody sees anybody else's hand up, please let me know, because I just got the I've got the Brady Bunch screen here, so I'm missing a few people. Item 2 or item 3, adoption of the minutes. Resolved that the minutes of September 1st, 2021 be adopted as circulated. And we'll look for discussion and a mover and a seconder if there's no discussion. So for a mover, Mr. Hall. And Ms.
Actually, I got a amendment to the minutes.
Okay.
It shows I was neither present or absent, but I did make it to the meeting in the last 15 minutes. So,
okay, we will have those. We will have those changed to reflect that. Okay, Abby. Yes, thank you. Is it? Thank you, Abby. Okay, is that good, Wayne?
Yes. And
okay, so you're still motion.
Yes.
Seconder would be for Stephanie. Anyone opposed? And those are adopted. Business arising from the minutes. Item 4. Do not see any. All right, we have a delegation with us tonight, Mr. Scott Burrell. He's with us tonight representing Advent Technical Group Limited regarding live streaming at the Lucan Community Center. Welcome, Scott, and you're up.
Well, first and foremost, thanks everyone for having me. It's been a bit of a hectic day, but I made it back in time. So I just wanted to get a bit of your guys' time just to go over an idea that we thought of. I guess I'll start with an introduction. My name's Scott Burrell. I am a project manager for a company called Advent Technical Group. And what we do is we are a technology infrastructure company. So we do network cabling, CCTV, access control, different areas like that throughout Ontario. The reason that you guys kind of came across my window is that before Christmas, a couple months before, we had our suppliers in for the year-end proposals and walkthroughs and new products and so forth like that. And one of our suppliers, Access Control Systems, which what they do is closed circuit security systems, cameras, stuff like that, but on the higher end of the application, a lot of military use and so forth like that. But they did present one camera to us that is a true 180-degree visual camera that has the option of basically creating a live stream process, and a lot of use primarily in military institutions and so forth like that. But it also has the ability to project onto platforms such as Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, other stuff like that. After the meeting that we had with that, we were kind of brainstorming in our office and talking about this, and thought it would be something that, given the current circumstances of low capacities and people, rightfully so, maybe not wanting to be in larger groups, that it could be something that we could institute into public facilities to kind of broaden the horizon and allow more people to be present in those. Myself, I'm a resident of Lucan, so when we were thinking of potential places for this to be used, selfishly, I thought of us. What we're essentially looking for is, I guess it would be almost a partnership, somewhere where we can start this platform off, somewhere where we can develop it, we can perfect it, and we can make it exactly what we want it to be, so that we can then take it to a wider market and use it. I personally believe it's kind of a win-win benefit for all of us. I think the town and the Lucan Biddulph area would really benefit from this. It's something that everybody would be able to use, and it would bring in accessibility to the arena that maybe isn't there for some people going forward. There is honestly probably some issues that need to be overcome with it. But what we're looking for is we're looking for a partnership where we can work through all of those potential areas. A lot of it to do with, privacy and stuff like that. But it is stuff that there has been precedent set for it, and it's something that it isn't a major roadblock for it. So in my discussions with Paul and first with Abby, it was to bring this to you guys and see if it is something that does draw interest. I know with the new expansion and redevelopment of the community center, it's something that not only can be broadcast out through, like I said, different platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Vimeo, but it also is something that can be projected through the entire facility as well. So it's an option. It's an exciting option, and I'm happy to hopefully bring it to Lucan and kind of start from there and build from there. As far as technical specifications, if anybody does request any, Paul's got my email address. I can send through whatever specifications you guys would like as far as the equipment. It is a lot of technical jargon, and bottom line, it takes a really nice picture, puts that picture wherever we want it to be, and kind of brings the whole world into our backyard.
Great. Okay, thank you. Do we have questions for Scott? And I'm just looking through. Councillor Hodgins, I see your hand first, sir.
Thanks for the information, Scott. Yeah, I guess just clarification or question. We're talking about live streaming. Is this live streaming of sporting events like hockey games exclusively, or what exactly?
Well, our intention is it's something that we would, as far as the breakdown of the camera goes, it's something that we would attach to one side of the ice surface or the other. It can be used for anything. My thoughts were, yes, the hockey. The beautiful part with this program is that there's a licensing that comes through the service provider, which is CamStream, which would allow you guys to overlay scoreboards if you had hockey games, say, going, but also overlay advertising. So I know one of the biggest drawing factors for small town recreation is fundraising. And it's something that's been a problem, over the COVID time with getting fundraising going. And so there is the option of putting advertising overlay on this. It doesn't have to exclusively be for hockey. It can be for anything that happens in the arena. And any facility that we can basically hook it up to, as long as we've got internet connection, we can make it happen.
All right. Are you good with that, Councillor Hodgins? All right, thank you. Okay, Paul?
If I may too, in my conversations with Scott, I have mentioned like one of the things that we need to be cognizant about is the ability to turn off the camera. Because obviously if there's a parental situation where, a parent doesn't want their child to be live streamed, we need to be able to disable that. It's something that, lots of facilities that have this kind of technology have dealt with before. It's a pretty simple solution, but he's cognizant of that.
All right. Okay, thank you for that, Paul. Any further questions or comments? I guess what I was just, sorry, Colin, go ahead first, please.
Oh, that's okay. I was just going to ask, Scott, is there an operator? I mean, is there someone that has to change the camera angles, or is that automatic? How does that work?
No, with this particular camera, that's the beauty of this one. A lot of times in the past, you've had to use like a PT camera that either is motioned by somebody or what have you. This camera in specific, it's what's called a Q3819-PVY. And basically, if you think about it, what it is, it's a true 180-degree camera. What they do is they take 4 specific lenses in the camera, each staggered on an angle, and then they seam those cameras together to give a true 180-degree view. So there is no rotation in the camera. There's no required, somebody watching it or tracking. Now, the AI technology that is in these cameras is exceptional. Probably go way farther than anything we would ever need. But when it was explained to us, like There's certain applications. They were talking about a tunnel application in New York City where this particular camera, you can pick it up to just recognize cube vans. Anytime a cube van passes in front of it, it will acknowledge it, track it, and follow it through. It is something that, in theory, if you really wanted to dive into it, it could track things on its own. But on its own basis, what our thought was just set up true 180-degree angle. The only operation that'll be required, like Paul said, if somebody does want it disabled for whatever reason, somebody can just go in remotely, turn off the camera, and the feed is down. Or if they want to overlay scores, what have you, before the event starts, you just have to kind of build that into the program, which can be done remotely as long as you have an internet connection.
All right, thank you. Is that okay, Colin? We're good? All right. Any other questions or any discussion? Linda, see Linda there, and then Todd, please. Oh, you're muted, Linda.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask the big question. How much are we talking?
Figured that one was coming.
I was going to ask. Okay.
Ah, geez. Well, she beat you to it. Okay, here's the deal. So the app itself, which is called Cam Streamer, that goes with these apps, it requires a license. And that license depends on the features that you guys want to run with it. We won't purchase the license simply because we don't want to hold the license for the Lucan Arena. You guys should purchase that license on your own. The license that has the live viewing and the overlay is a one-time fee of $499. The only part of that you don't want to quote me 100% on is that I'm not sure if that license is in US dollars or Canadian, but it's essentially $499. That's a one-time fee. There isn't a subscription to it or anything else like that. It's just for that. Now, as far as the camera goes, my hope, my goal is that I'm going to get our supplier to supply this camera for you. This operation, as far as the basic operation of it, meaning the setup, the live streaming, all the rest of that, we're intending to run this as a pilot project and not as a profitable project for us. Our hope, to be perfectly honest with you, is to be profitable but down the road on other arenas. But on this one, because it's an initial project and we're using it as a pilot project, I want to keep the cost to the bare minimum, hoping at the most that our supplier is going to eat the cost of the camera. There might be minimal cost for setup, but quite frankly, we're willing to kind of get that going as much as we can. Now, when it comes to expansion, me and Paul have, had spitballing ideas about, feeding the system throughout the arena, possibly having it on TVs so that if you're in dressing rooms, you can see what's happening on the ice service, or if you walk in and so forth. That's something that, is over and above the scope of what we're doing. It's completely possible. It is something that we can do. And I quite frankly think it's something that would bring inherent value to the project on its own. But to get this up and running, what I'm hoping is the total cost of this will not exceed $2,000. And if I have my way, the only cost to you guys will be the licensing fee for the cam stream.
Okay, Linda, are you okay with that?
It sounds very generous.
Okay, all right.
Well, I like Lucan. What can I say?
Yeah, okay. All right, did you have any follow-up questions, Linda?
No, thank you.
No, you're good. Okay, Todd. I can't hear you, sir. Yep, a little better. Yep.
All right. I was just saying thank you, Scott. Appreciate your presentation as well as your commitment to the community. I really like what you have to hear. Where were you 2 years ago? The start of COVID, right? When we were restricted with the number of people that were allowed into the community. And I know that members of this committee were actually asking about, maybe a junior version of what you're talking about, maybe like a Facebook type of a situation. The privacy concerns were a major problem with doing that at the time, and that's something you alluded to. Could you maybe expand a little bit about what type of hurdles that we'd be looking at from a privacy perspective?
Well, in doing my own research, there's been two kind of main cases in this. If you look at the Halifax minor hockey, has been one of them, and the other one, ironically enough, just happens to be in BC, so it just kind of bookends our country. But a lot of it has to do with the expectation of privacy, and that a lot of the uproar has been in the recording of the actual video, right? So there's been rulings with the Supreme Court and so on this, and it quite frankly, it comes down to the expectation of privacy, and you are free to do this mostly because it's a viewing application. So there is no recording taking place. These cameras can be set up, they can be put on NVRs, and they can be set up to record. But as a simple live stream, there's no recording. It's simply there and then gone. And there, in a public setting, there is no expectation of privacy when it comes to being viewed. Now, it's kind of a heavy-handed approach, and it's not necessarily an approach that you maybe want to just force on people, but it is something that, like Paul had alluded to, that if it is a situation, like I said, there's child custody issues, there's different things with the world now that, quite frankly, just any moral person wouldn't do, right? So the advantage is that there is nothing saying that you're not allowed to do this. There is no limitation to that other than just the moral obligation to do the right thing. And in doing that, like Paul had said, at any time the camera can be turned down, turned off, and brought back online at the touch of a button. So it's not a major issue, but it's just something that you want to address before it becomes a problem.
All right. Thank you. Todd, did you have more?
A follow-up to that. Thank you very much. We're talking about the live streaming through the app. Is there any control as to who has access to that stream? Is there a type of a registration process? Is there a way of blocking who it is, or giving permission to who it is that has access to that stream?
That would go through, I guess that would depend on the platform, right? So your platform that you're using it through will have limitations. So just off the top of my head, if you were doing YouTube, you can make it a subscription-based YouTube channel, which I've had some thought about this, and to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know. It is a possibility, obviously, to do it that way. And again, that has to do more with the platform you choose as opposed to any of the equipment that you're using, right? My only worry there, it's not even a worry, but my only concern and my only thought on that is that it limits the people that are from out of town. So my example would be, my son is far from an athlete, but he did play hockey for 1 year. And when he did play hockey on the same team as Colin's son was much better. They played Moortown. And my thought was always that, wouldn't it be great that if the people in Moortown's kids are playing here, only one parent can come or what have you. It's open, so no matter where you are in the world or who you happen to be in the world, if your son or daughter happens to be playing in the Lucan Arena, you can tune in and see it. And that was the true kind of gift of this. And the showcase of this is that, a kid comes to Lucan to play in a tournament from Scarborough and his family can watch him play back home or whatever it might be, right? So yeah, you can make it a private Facebook group or private Facebook page that this feeds through, but I don't know if that represents the spirit of what it should be. I think that it's something that, no matter where we are, we can tune in and we can watch our kids play hockey or figure skate or whatever it might be, right? So to answer your question, short form, yes, it can be made private. Long form, I don't know if that's the best way to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, Scott. Colin, yes, I see your hand next.
Yeah, I just wanted to share. I just did a quick Google, and I am currently live streaming the arena in Huron Park. South Huron has a camera in both of their arenas, and Huron Parks is on right now. You can see the rank. Exeter has likely been turned off because of the pandemic. They've got sponsors on there already. And to be perfectly honest, I don't need to hear a whole lot more. We've been streaming for the last 2 years. We've been at work. We've not charged a cent yet to stream because there is such a learning curve where I'd like to say we're just getting good at it now. So, I mean, I don't know whether you need a motion or whether we need further discussion, but I say, let's give Scott the approval and get on with the road. There's a couple hands going up now.
Yeah, I think if I may, Colin, if there are any other questions, I'm just going to jump in if I may, just as chair. I was perhaps looking for a recommendation. If there could be more discussion, by the way, in this group, but just looking, this was sort of what we were heading for, is looking for a recommendation from this committee for Paul to take this to council. I don't know if it'll be for Tuesday or not, but we could move this forward as Colin suggests, but I still look for other discussion and other points from the committee. And I'm just sliding through and I'm not seeing them. So I guess I would ask, oh, sir, Paul, go ahead. I forgot about you. Sorry.
I believe actually Ian had his hands up.
Oh, Ian, sorry.
Hi, thank you. I love the idea. I think it's a great idea. Can you hear me? Everything's good?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. As an educator, from that point of view, we do live streaming now with our games when we were in during COVID, when we let parents in. And so every player had to sign from their parent a form. And so that's my concern. So if a parent doesn't sign from an away team or a home team, does that limit then our capabilities of then viewing the rest of the game because one parent doesn't sign that waiver? Or how do we get around that? I'm just worried about a liability issue with that. But again, I love the idea. I think it's a great idea because, you know, grandparents can't see, and as you said, away parents and so on. So what's the, you know, the getting over that challenge or that stepping stone? What's the thought on that?
That's for Scott. That question for Scott, Ian?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I really wish I had a good answer for you. The problem is that the minority runs the majority, and that, you know, on your end, that's going to be a facility issue to kind of figure out the workaround on that. As far as it goes, you know, again, I understand why you guys have the waiver and you're dealing with minors and everything like that. It just becomes down to you guys. As far as the technology goes, at this point, there isn't going to be a way, just because of the nature of the broadcast. There isn't going to be a way to remove one kid from the picture. You know, they're all wearing the same uniform. The technology's not quite good enough to pick out the kid's number, but that's the issue. That's the hurdle that it comes down to, is that how much of it you put in the hands of the parents to decide. The other side of it is I know with a lot of different organizations in different arenas that I've looked into around the country, anybody that uses the arena is considered a renter of the facility. And so that is in part of the rental agreement of the facility, that there is security and CCTV being used. So again, it depends on your end of it, the lease side of it. Unfortunately, I can't help you out with that
Just
one.
being devil's advocate for
No, 100%.
Involved, Scott, like just you know, say if something did happen where whatever, say there's a fight in a midget game or a bantam game or a junior game for that matter, and there was something that occurred, and then, you know, who's liable then? Is it the municipality, or is it the coaches in that situation, or the referee? You know, that kind of thing. Like, which is, I don't want to be that. Well, I am being that guy, but you just got to think of all those things, right? Because I think that the whole overall picture, 99% of this is a great idea. I'm just worried about that 1 or 2% where there is a situation where all of a sudden something happens, and then how is the ball going to roll from there? I just think, we need to think about that as well. Overall, I think it's an amazing idea. But anyhow, that's just my thought.
If I'm being perfectly honest with you, that is where you need to put your thought. That is the part that you guys as a committee, that you guys as a town need to focus your energy, because there is no question.
I agree.
This is a phenomenal.
But that one
Yeah.
What if, you always have to think of that in a good business plan. You got to think of those what ifs, right? So
100%. And that's the thing. And what our idea was is we've read all the anecdotal stories, we've read the reviews, we've read the rulings, we've read them all. And quite frankly, all we can do is present the options to you, but open them with, hands open. That is an issue that you guys have to consider when doing this. This idea is, it sounds too good to be true. It's too easy, but that is the rub. And there is always going to be one, right? And it's what you guys have to decide. You have to weigh one against the other. And unfortunately, me or anybody else on the technology side can't answer that question. That's something that you guys have to decide for it. And it is a valid point. There is no, it's not to be dismissed.
I think if I may sorry, Ian, did you have a follow up to that? Sorry.
No, I just didn't. As long as I think if we have something in place, and I'm not sure if other municipalities would have that in place or wherever it's being videotaped or whatever it is, just so that, we have, a background or paperwork or whatever it is, then I think that's a good thing. And then we go from there. We just move forward, just so we just don't go, push forward with this, and then we don't have a plan just in case, X, Y, and Z does happen. Right. That's my point. So,
all right. Thank you. So I apologize for missing you on the first time around. I think Paul, one of the things that's it. I think one of the things Paul might want to do if we move this forward is he could check with counterparts and other municipalities that do this to see what they do in that case. Paul, you've had your hand up. Go ahead, please.
If I may, through chair, I think there is a Municipal Surveillance Act. So I think, I have contacts for that. I think those would be the people I would contact to make sure we're not off board. I think it could be as simple as, a lot of times it's as simple as signage and how easily you can pick up details from the camera. So I will check with that. I think if I have the committee's support for recommendation to council, part of my recommendation to council would be to include in my report that we should do a legal review of the implications of this, but I do think it could be as simple as signage. I think as someone not signing a piece of paper isn't as bad as someone signing one and saying, I do not want my child on there. I think that's where you get to those bigger issues as opposed to someone forgetting to sign. But obviously, yeah, I think that would be part of my recommendation. So if I do have the committee's support to go forward with this and, partner with Scott to kind of keep this project moving, that would be part of my recommendation to council.
Great, thank you. Is there any other, I'm just looking for hands again, I'm just scrolling through. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Questions we have for either Paul or for Scott? And I'm not seeing any. So with that, and if I'm out of line, Mr. Raymer, tell me, but perhaps just putting forward a ad hoc motion that we direct Paul to bring this forward to council with a recommendation at the earliest possible convenience. If I just get a mover and seconder for that to make it official. And so Keith and Stephanie, thank you. Anybody opposed to this? And I don't see, and that's carried. And thank you very much for that. Thank you, Scott.
My pleasure.
And you're welcome to stick around if you want, but
I've had a long day. I just got back from Toronto. I spent it in a hospital quoting a reinstallation of Wi-Fi. So I'm good.
All right. Okay, thank you very much.
Hey, no, you guys take care and have a great day.
Have a good night, Scott.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you. All right, we will move forward. I think we're going to move forward to report 6.1, Lifeguard Incentive Program. And I think that's Abby. You are up.
Thank you, Chair. So if everyone reviewed the report, that's excellent. If not, just going to give you a little bit of background. So as everybody knows, we've had trouble with lifeguards in the past, the recruitment process and hiring. And we need to have an additional motivation, like we spoke about this last year. And one of those motivations could be covering the cost of the NL certification. And the way that I kind of came up with this was to divide that over 4 years for a typical college or university employee to work with us is 4 years. So over those 4 summers, upon review, they would receive a portion of their NL certification reimbursement, which comes out currently to be $70.62 per year per guard, again, upon review. And this just adds a little bit of an incentive to attend our pool and maybe get the younger guards interested in obtaining their NL after their bronze. And then again, gives us another leg up with the potential of hiring fully certified guards.
We have the report up there. Okay.
So what I'm looking for is just that the committee members support this idea, and then we push it forward to council. The goal would be for council to approve this incentive prior to our recruitment process, so we can advertise that we are having this new plan in place.
Okay. Is that okay? So thank you very much. Are we good, Abby? I don't want to cut you off there. Good. Okay.
Nope.
Thank you very much. No, thank you. Questions and comments, and I have Paul Smith up first. Go ahead, Paul.
If I may, through you, Chair. Obviously, we're having our first construction meeting very soon. So still, whether or not the pool can operate during construction is up in the air. We got to have that defined and figured out. But we'd still, I've asked Abby to look into this because as we go forward, if we can have a pool, we need to have a plan already in place, and we need to be ready to start, bringing these people in and showing that we are a great place to work. So.
Okay. Thank you very much, Paul. Other questions and discussion for Abby? Todd.
I remember last year, Abby, it was really kind of a rush at the end. Couldn't find someone. Have you given any thought as to when to launch the recruitment campaign for your lifeguarding needs?
For sure. So yeah, last year there was definitely lots of delays given the circumstance, but I believe that the next council meeting, Ron, does that fall on the 1st? Falls on the 1st, so hopefully that this could be pushed through quickly, and then we can begin advertising right after that, typically on the Monday, but then again, we could always post on the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, just as simple as putting it up on the web, putting it out on Indeed, advertising around town, and pushing it forward.
So you're thinking like as soon as like a week from now?
Yes, absolutely, as soon as possible.
Thank you.
All right. Further discussion and comments for Abby? Ian, please.
Sorry, I don't mean to be the guy that comments on everything. Sorry.
Okay, we need that guy.
Yeah.
Right.
So Jaden's smiling because I taught Jaden, so he's like, anyhow. Yeah, I know that Kirkton Pool just started advertising today, and I know my daughter and a bunch of her friends are taking their certification in London in February, March. And so I know that there's interest for young women or men to do this. And I think as we all know that it's an important aspect for our community because of many of our new developments do not have access to put a pool in. And so this is a great thing, especially through our community questionnaire that it was important to keep this going. So I just want to make that comment. So they're excited to be at the pool, to one as participants, but also as people in working. So that's my comment. Thanks.
Thank you, Ian. Further comments or questions for Abby? As we're looking through. Wayne, yes.
I just think the value of the registration for the course over 4 years is not much of an incentive, maybe 2 years, you know?
Questions, comments to that? Ron.
Through the chair to Abby, maybe, excuse me, maybe Abby, you could explain why you did it over 4 years as opposed to a shorter term?
For sure. Yeah, the typical summer student employment within the township is the 4-year duration. That's usually the amount of time that a college student or a university student would be with us, because they do have to be enrolled in a higher education or high school education in order to be employed as a summer student. But yeah, fast tracking that's always something we can talk about as well for a greater incentive.
All right. Okay. Follow up, Wayne?
Yes.
Nope, sorry. Did you have any follow-up? Sorry, that was my question.
No.
All right. Okay, thank you. I see Linda. Yes.
How long is the, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh.
It's just me.
Now you're muted.
You're on mute again now.
How long is the certification good for?
The
Do they have to do it
certification
every year?
every 2 years. Recert
2
every 2 years, and we typically do cover the cost of the recert or the instruct. If there's a lot of lifeguards that have to do it, we do it at our pool and we cover the cost of the instructor.
Okay. Okay.
Right. And I see Todd, please go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just, speaking as somebody who's been a professional recruiter for about 30 years now, I can tell you through incentive programs, if you're looking to secure talent, incentives rarely work when you put conditions or limitations on them. I can tell you from a professional standpoint that incentives are very effective if it's simply, here's what you get. So whatever that number is going to look like, or whatever that's going to be, it really, you don't want to have, over the course of 5 years, or if you meet these certifications, it's just basically you sign the dotted line, this is the lump sum that we're going to give you. That's it. Anything other than that, it gets lost in the noise.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Todd. And I'm going to go to Ron first.
Okay, I was just going to say through the chair to Abby, maybe you can sort of outline the cost, because I Abby and I did talk about this prior to it, because that was one of the questions I had. Why are we spreading it over 4 years? It didn't seem like that much money, but if everybody takes advantage of this program, it actually works out to quite a bit. I guess that's a relative term, but it's not a cheap alternative. So maybe what we can do is sort of first come, first serve. If we want to pay it all, to Todd's point up front, we can dangle that carrot in the first, whatever dollar limit we put on it. If we can afford 4 people to do it, the first 4 get it. Maybe that's an alternative to spreading it out over the 4 years. So anyway, just further discussion on that point. Thank you.
Right. Okay, I just wanted to go back to the other screen to make sure I haven't missed anybody. And Linda, I'm sorry, I didn't ask you if you had any follow-up to that, to your points. Are you okay? All right, Paul?
Just if I may, the idea that we came about for the 4 years was, simply having that return investment, having those people, we don't want to have people come for 1 year, pay for their NL, and then they just take off to another facility. I get the points, though. They're all very valid points. So I think maybe the thought, when we bring this forward to council, we can interject these different scenarios, different opinions, and the reason why. And I think maybe that could be part of the conversation at the council level. Is do we even want to do this? If we do, is it a lump sum? Is it a fast track program? because I think part of it is we want to, if we're going to do this, we want to retain these people. Typically, we have a very good return. Like when people come and work for us, they enjoy it. They have a great time at our pool. You know, they become invested in it, and they often come back. So I'm not that worried about people returning. It's just with our previous attempt at getting certified people, it's a little disheartening and a little worrisome. You want to make sure that if we're going to do this, that we have that return.
Thank you, Paul. Ian?
I totally agree with that. My concern was, I know the situation last year was a little bit different and more challenging, but when things were put out late and then kids had to find a job and nothing was returned, or from my understanding, they're not going to wait for us to do something as a municipality when they need a job to pay school. That, and then what's the commitment on the municipality to continue this pool so that these kids or these young students who need a job will stick around and be there, right? So are they going to say, you know, well, we're not really sure of the pool, so they're going to can it in 2 years, right? So that's another question maybe that we need to give council. I'm not sure anybody on here in this meeting can answer that right now, but that's a concern as a taxpayer and a community member.
Great. Thank you. Paul, did you want to answer that?
Yeah, just if I may, I believe, and I can't speak on behalf of council, but from the conversations that we've had at the staff level with council, there is no intention at getting rid of the pool. In fact, there's been conversations about putting a major investment into the pool. So I don't think the pool is going anywhere anytime soon. The only thing that's up in the air right now is with the construction, when does that investment happen? And when does, you know, what can happen while the construction is going on? Because obviously if there's a big pile of dirt next to the pool, it might not be that enjoyable for people to utilize. So I think when we have our first construction meeting, that's something we're going to determine, because that's very important. And I think from there, you know, council has a lot of conversations going forward on kind of like when that investment happens, what that investment looks like. But I do believe there is an interest in council to make an investment for this pool. I don't believe it's going anywhere anytime soon.
Thank you. Is that okay, Ian, or did you have a follow-up, sir? You all right? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Paul. I'm looking for any further questions or comments for Abby on 6.1. Colin, please.
Yeah, just a couple comments, I guess, and a question through you on to Todd Bailey, if I could possibly. I mean, you know the game. What's it going to take? And I think that for me, I am, you know, we're talking currently of $700 and $7,000 if there were 10 of them, you know, over the lifespan of what they were going to do. But, you know, like, what's it going to take to hire a teenager in 2022? Because I don't think any of us want to be in a position where we're to blame for there not being a pool again this year. And I don't mind spending some of the municipality's money to hedge that bet and to make that happen. And then, you know, Paul, your construction meeting, I think we need to, you know, if we're going to give an incentive, if for some reason the pool doesn't go this summer, they get the incentive one way or the other. Like, I think we need to give them some guarantees of what's happening too. So Todd, I don't know if you can answer that.
Mr. Chair, in answers to Colin's inquiry, I could teach a course about it, and I won't subject everybody to it. Needless to say, if I had all the answers, I would be a very wealthy person. It's a struggle for sure. The one thing I'll kind of point out is there's absolutely a difference between recruitment incentive and retention. Those are two different things, and it sounds to me as if we may be trying to merge those two together, and that's a mistake. I think in regards to the pool, what you have going for you right now, you're going to be looking for community members. Those are the people that are going to be invested in the community. Those are going to be people that are invested in the operation of the pool. You're going to get your retention through that. I think you need to focus on getting the talent first, and that's incentive. That means you need to be competitive. You need to be more competitive than those around you, specifically London. You need to be advantageous. Why Would you want to stay here in Lucan at a smaller pool with a smaller staff, with smaller training opportunities versus going to the big city where you're going to be making more money with bigger staffs and bigger trainings and more experiences, right? And when it comes to the kids, those 20-year-olds, cash is king. It's what they're going to be able to get home. So you need to be able to guarantee them their income. This is what you're going to be able to get for us by the end of the year. They need to rely on that to be able to go to school, to plan themselves accordingly. I mean, that's my 2-minute kind of synopsis, but Paul or Abby, if you guys want to pick my brain offline, anytime, just give me a call.
Thank you, Todd. Colin, is that okay?
Well, I was hoping he was going to give us a number, but he didn't. He just skipped right over that. So I guess we'll just have to draw that on our own.
All right, thank you. Right. Paul, I see your hand up.
If I may, just based on Colin's previous comment, I mean, maybe if the pool doesn't go, maybe this is something we look at and say we could still offer an incentive program for the following year, try and get that recruitment started early, get people going towards it. Maybe that's something we bring forward to council.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to have Stephanie and then Ian and then Ron.
I'd also say too, like I think Todd mentioned this last summer too, is if the course that doesn't go through in London goes through, is how can we facilitate people in our community getting that NLS? I know when I used to coach and I needed my lifeguarding, the club I did set up the research, they set up the certification for people who are willing. So as sorry to kind of go off topic, but that's definitely something that I'm sure people would also work. It would also work as a community thing too.
No, yes, thank you very much. Thank you. Ian, and then, I'm sorry, Stephanie, we're good? Okay, thank you, Stephanie.
Ian? That's a great idea. Paul, you mentioned about talking with the developers and the builders about, if there's a big pile of dirt. So if this is a big concern or like a need, I guess, for the community, that we make certain that they go the 9 yards to make sure that there's accessibility, there's limited challenges with that, I would think, so that we can open the pool for our community. So that's my point. I think they would be willing to do that, I think, but maybe they aren't. I don't know. Just I think it's important that we ask that question at least to them, so that we don't have another summer where we don't have the pool, one, and then as Colin stated, that then us as a community and our committee members and council then get all these questions, why isn't the pool open? And then it comes back on us. So, right. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ian. Paul, I'll let you address that.
Yeah, if I may, my hopes, Ian, is that's something we're going to stress at our first meeting, because obviously that's high importance, because we've been 2 years now without a pool. My hopes as well, by July, August, the project should be well along, knock on wood, that's our plan. So, earth moving, foundation, all that stuff should hopefully be well underway, that hopefully we can come up with a solution, even if we have to, come up with some temporary solution to maybe block off parts of the fence so there's no debris coming in, or, we might have to get creative with it. It may cost a little bit of money, but if it's something that allows us to have the pool open, it's probably worthwhile.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Follow up, Ian, anyone? Ian, you're good? Okay. And does anyone else? I want to go to Ron. You had your hand up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's unfortunate that our construction meeting that was originally scheduled for this Friday had to be postponed to next Friday. Darn COVID. I'll be so glad when this is over, because it's really starting to crimp everybody's style, but we can't do anything about that. But it is pretty important, that first construction meeting, Ian, to your point. We only have the pool for 2 months in the summer. Is there a way to do this? But I think it's going to be a very frank discussion with the contractor. Can he ensure the safety of not only the kids using the pool, but the users of the pool, but also the staff? How do we get them in and out? And how do we, prevent debris or any kind of safety situation? So it's going to be a frank conversation, but that conversation can't happen until next Friday. So then the question then becomes, yeah, if Paul takes this report or Abby's report to council next Tuesday night, council may say, yes, go ahead. But do we really want to advertise before that Friday construction meeting if it's not going to be possible? If the contractor is going to say, I'm sorry, but there's no way we can do that and guarantee anybody's safety. So that I don't want to end up with egg on our face either. So for the sake of a week, I think we have to sort of hold tight and talk to that contractor first. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, so just bring it, instead of bringing it to the February 1st meeting, we bring it to the next council meeting.
Well, I would suggest, Mr. Chair, we should still bring it to the first meeting in February, the 1st of February,
right,
so we can hedge our bets. If everything is a go with that construction meeting, if they say, yeah, you know what, we can do that. We're going to be far enough along. We can stay away from that area for those 2 months. Then we can already get everything going. So, Abby and Paul can already have those ads ready to go out. And as soon as we get that go ahead from the contractor, then we're off to the races, and those ads are out there.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay.
All right. Is there any other questions, comments, discussion? We do have a recommended motion in front of us. And if I don't see any other hands, we have a recommended motion that report number PRAC-01-2022 be recommended by PRAC to council, and the new lifeguard incentive program be approved prior to the start of the lifeguard recruitment process. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Todd and Wayne, all opposed? I see none opposed, and that has passed. Excellent. Thank you very much, Abby. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. All right. Okay, we are going to move on to new business now. 7-1, and I'm so happy to say this. Luke and Biddulph Community Center renovation. And Paul, or is it Ron? Are you up or Paul's up? Paul, okay, thank you. Paul?
I'll take the thunder here, Ron.
Okay, and just keep in mind, Paul, and I can't see it when hands come up. So once we go to questions, you're just going to have to give me that screen back, please.
Yep.
Thank you.
So just for the purpose of sharing with the group, we had our tender close for the community center. And thankfully, very thankfully, the lowest bid came in after tax at $9,057,741. So being Parks and Recreation, we get all of the tax back. So it's actually $8,015,000 that the project came back at, which is fantastic given especially some of the projects that we've heard about around other communities that have come in much higher. So we were worried, but this is great news. We had 6 companies submit out of the 13 that had asked for the tender. And Tonda, the company that Tonda Construction Limited, that actually did the YMCA portion, has been awarded the tender for the community center phase 2. So we are happy that this is finally, what are we now? 2019, we submitted that grant. And a lot of you were involved in this project before I even came on board. So it's a long time coming, and we are finally seeing the finish line. So fantastic news.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Questions, discussion from the group? And I don't see any. Oh, okay, a thumbs up from Linda. Congratulations to everybody who worked so hard on this, that's for sure. Okay, Todd.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Do we have any idea of groundbreaking as far as dates? Do we have any commitments as to when we're going to be starting, or what kind of next steps?
So once again, that'll fall to that first construction meeting. The whole plan was to get this moving as quick as possible, because with all the supply chain delays, we needed to get this company ordering supplies right away. They were given a year timeline, so December of this year is supposed to be the final date. So that would mean hopefully they are starting groundbreaking very shortly.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Todd.
Ron had his hand up.
Ron, yes. Sorry.
Mr. Chair, I just throw this out there. Paul, did you want to talk about the extra seating option seating option that was presented with that low bid?
Sure.
Just to get some discussion from this group.
Yeah, I was actually going to, okay, no, thank you, Ron. I was going to bring that up. So yes.
Oh,
So
sorry.
one. So one thing that had been brought up before, I believe actually Ian brought it up at one of our previous meetings, is there something out there like, if we fundraise this much, we could do, this, and this. So one thing that Tonda did supply us with in the tender, the sections behind each player's benches were proposed as upgraded seating, but they also gave us a cost to do the full arena bowl, which is about $100,000 with upgraded seating, which obviously, if you're getting this upgrade, that would make the whole place look brand new. So there is a chance there that, if council wishes to go forward with that, that could be an option, as we had put before, with the fundraising, say, if we raise this much, we can get all this seating. So there is potential there.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Paul. All right. And I'm looking for, is there any other discussion or any other questions or comments? It's absolutely amazing news. I don't see any. Okay. Thank you, Paul. Oh, Ron, sorry, I went back to the other screen. There you go, Ron.
Sorry, I didn't. I just wanted to throw that out there. So the extra cost was $111,000 for the balance of the seating. And really, if we could ask the group to talk to other people and see what you think. I mean, that number didn't sound too bad to a lot of us. However, I have heard a comment that some of the parents like some of the flat seating because they can set their kid up with a coloring book or whatever, and away you go. You're not going to be able to do that with the flip down seating. Conversely, maybe the kids aren't going to be running around on the benches and hurting themselves if all the seating is the flip down seating. So I think at this point, if maybe just everybody could think about that and maybe talk to the other hockey parents, talk to other figure skating parents. What do people think about that? Is that a $111,000 that people think would be a good use? I think if you change the entire seating to flip down seating, you really change the atmosphere in that facility. It's going to look a lot different with full flip down seating, and really, I do think that's going to sort of make people take notice and sort of elevate our game, so to speak. But at the end of the day, it is more money. It is $111,000, and if people don't want it, then why would we do it? So, but that is the question. So, if we could just maybe get people to talk to their neighbors, see what you think, and then come back.
I think just to add to Ron is if we just sort of assign that to sort of a homework, so to speak, to folks, just to maybe for next meeting to bring back just sort of what the sense is of the community with respect to that. I thought when I heard that price, and I was at the tender opening, if I may, and I was actually quite surprised to hear I was happy to hear the prices that were coming in, but because we expected it to be higher, honestly. But with the seating, I thought that was I actually thought that was a pretty good deal. But again, we need to know what people are thinking, and maybe if we can do that for the next meeting and just come back with some feedback from the community. Todd, I see you first, and then Ian.
In addition to that, Mr. Chairman, I was wondering also if we could get some input from our partner municipalities in the area that do have stadium seating. I know Strathroy particularly is one. I'd be interested in knowing what the maintenance and repair and any hurdles that they have had since they've implemented that. I'd also be interested in knowing if that's going to be limiting our seating capacity, if that in any way is going to affect the number of people that we're able to fit inside the bowl area. Those are things the community won't be able to provide, but if we could maybe do some investigative work with other communities that have done this before.
Great, right, absolutely. So Paul, is that something that you can do for us for maybe the next meeting?
Absolutely, and I think part of at construction, the construction meeting as well, I think, determining what these seats are and what they look like. Because, myself, I worked at Budweiser Gardens for 7 years, and I was fixing seats every single show, concert, hockey game. So it really depends on how they are designed and how it's put together. So I think, that's something that I should determine first is like, what does that seat look like? And then obviously, yes, our partner communities, like what kind of cost they find going through their seats. We're not having 9,900 people in here jumping up and down, so it may not be as costly.
Right. Thank you. So Ian and then Stephanie, if I could, please.
Those are great questions. But I think when, as a longtime coach and hockey player, going into somewhere like Dorchester and Forest, and they have those flip down seats, and I think when our players go in there, like they're like kind of like, wow, this is kind of cool. And then I know parents definitely enjoy sitting in those seats, and they make accommodations for what they need to do with their young children if they rather than sitting on a flat bench. But I think the comfort level, and it gives a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for, is they appreciate it, one, but they also think that they're kind of they like it, right? And so it's
classy.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Point of pride.
Pardon?
A point of pride, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think if we're going to do a new facility, then that's one thing they would see, right? And so they realize something has been done too, other than the new addition. So.
Thank you, Ian. Stephanie, please.
I think for the C2, I don't know how practical this is with COVID restrictions and groups and things like that too, but just sort of get the community involved. Like, hey, this is your seat. Do you want to test it out in the arena when you come visit or see your kid play hockey or things like that? I don't know how realistic that is right now, but just to get people excited and kind of involved in that we're all making this choice together kind of thing.
Well, if it's realistic, it's exciting. So that's good. Thank you for that. Paul.
I think that's a great idea. If we have more community events, knock on wood, maybe we can get a sample seat from the contractors and have it at that tent that says like, here's our project, here's what we're doing, here's the seat, take a seat, this is how you can enjoy the game. We can even set it up like, here's the seat, put a screen in front of them with a hockey game. Like, I think that's a great idea.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Keith, yes.
Hi, everyone. Just a quick question. Congrats anyway. This 10 million. So follow me up on what plan are we using? What plan did they price out? Like, we've gone through quite a few plans, what we're doing with the renovation. Which one did we come up with? Or is it like within the one in the arena, or, we kind of change rooms back and forth and stuff. So I just want to know where we're at, which one.
Paul, please.
If I may, through you, Chair, it's the final plan that we submitted with the grant.
Okay.
So the final plan that we've been showing the last couple of years now, it's that plan. So the one that, if you go on the website,
yeah, okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah. So it's that one.
Okay. Keith, you're good.
Perfect.
Okay. Further questions and comments to 7.1, and I'm looking and I don't see. Oh, Colin, I see you there. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, with the bid coming in as competitive as it has, I mean, even when we're talking about these seats, it's like little over 1% of the total value of the cost of this thing. I really don't want to hear anything, Paul, in like 3 years that the arena staff wanted and didn't think we would spend the money on. Now is the time. Spend it. And, I know there'll be other people in our community that might disagree with that, but let's not cut corners. Let's do this properly. And if there is a few extras that might potentially throw on $500,000 or even $1 million, I'm likely going to be voting every single time that we do it, because as we can see, it's a long road and nothing will ever get any cheaper than it is today.
Thank you, Colin. All right, and I am going to ask one more time for any questions, comments, discussion on 7.1. And seeing none, we're going to go to, thank you for that, Paul, going to 7.2, soccer field, multi-purpose courts, and that's Paul as well.
So, sorry, it's Spencer Park, soccer field's next.
Okay, I'm sorry, my fault. That's my fault.
So we're just waiting for the final budget to be approved. We've come up with some additional capital numbers, as obviously we had to apply for the COVID resilience funding. for the project. We know 100,000 isn't going to cover it, so it has to come to council for a capital discussion. Part of when we got the survey back, some of the sports people wanted to see in the community, they wanted to see hockey, they wanted to see basketball, tennis, pickleball, all those things. So one of the things that I just wanted to share with the group as we're going to construct the tender once we get the approval from council is on the screen here. You can see there are these items like this where you can make it a basketball court, but it also has a hockey net underneath, because I know ball hockey will be a big thing in wintertime. Obviously right now, Granton's got a fantastic outdoor ice rink. Thank you, Keith. You guys do a great job out there. But this might be a potential place in Lucan we could do one. And if we already have nets there, it might be a great ice surface for outdoor ice hockey in the wintertime as well. I know Abby and myself are even discussing today, South Huron's closing their outdoor pickleball courts for the winter time, and we are thinking of going out there and just kind of seeing what they've done there, because pickleball is a large sport right now. It's pretty popular, so that's going to be part of the aspect there as well. So just to really formulate what this looks like based upon the surveys that we put out and we've received and some of the comments back, I just want to share this with the committee. I want to get some of your thoughts. I know we've talked about lighting and so forth in the past. I know a lot of people in the actual neighborhood, they've not been very positive about having lighting there, because they don't want people there late at night playing. So I just put it to the committee, just get your final input that you could give me, give us before we really put this thing together, about what kind of things that the kids might want to see there, or adults might want to see there. I think our intention at the moment is pickleball on one side, tennis court on the other, that also can double as basketball and hockey.
Okay, just if I may, just indulge the committee just for a second. Paul, I just had a quick question. That survey, what was the response from the survey, like the numbers? Do you know?
I don't know off by heart. It was well received. Hockey was very much the top one, of course. I mean, that wasn't our intention when we first went to do this project. Obviously, we want to replace the tennis court, so that's important. There has to be tennis. But hockey and basketball were right up there with pickleball and tennis.
Okay, thank you. Okay, sorry, yeah, it is Spencer Park, not the soccer one. It's my fault. Ron forgot to leave me as readers. So, all right, questions and comments, concerns for Paul on 7.2. And I'm just going through. And Wayne, yes, sir.
So just Paul, if you can help me with this diagram. So is the net attached to the goal, the basketball net?
Yeah, so it almost becomes like it would be part of the fence. So
okay.
it goes flush with the fence, so the net's hanging off the fence at the end there, and then there'd be a recessed hockey net. So if you want to play outdoor, like floor hockey, like it's not floor hockey, but outdoor road hockey, you've got a net option as well as basketball.
Okay, the only down part is if you're playing like 3-on-3 and you're going to play basketball, you're going to the net driving to the net to give a layup, you're going to follow right through, right? So you're going to hit that net part.
Well, it's actually in like recess. So like the fence would be here. It's actually behind the fence.
Okay, so there's like 2 or 3 feet behind the basketball net.
Let me bring that up again. I think I've got the actual dimensions here for you. So say this part here would be lined up with the actual fence. And then the actual net itself is 2 feet, 8 inches.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right. Okay. Wayne, is that okay?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Wayne. Okay. So any other questions or concerns or comments? And Linda, yes, please. Just have to unmute, Linda.
Okay, I think we're good. I'm just picturing offering all of this multi-use. Are people going to have to book to say we're coming to play basketball? and you guys get your hockey equipment out of here because we're playing basketball, is this potentially going to cause conflict? And I can understand the neighborhood people too, not wanting lights. You know, let's keep this as a daylight activity area for the sake of the residents. I think that's a valid point. But this multi-use, I mean, could making everything multi-use cause conflict?
I mean, there's always chance for conflict. I wouldn't recommend at this point we'd be booking it. I mean, if it was very popular and there was a lot of issues, I think that's something we might have to implement, that you could book it like you can a pavilion. You know, they've done this in other communities where they've made, and that was part of having, you know, pickleball on one side, tennis on the other, because pickleball, in case you don't know, they don't stop. So, you know, they do have little kind of rows where pickleball wants to be on, but tennis wants to be on. So there's always chances. You know, you just hope as a community you're able to get along and, you know, play together. I mean, it works out in Granton. They have a basketball net on their tennis court, and I know, Keith, you could correct me, but I don't think there's a lot of fights over this. I mean, obviously, the more sports there are, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if hockey's on there most of the time because the way our community is, but there's always potential.
Okay. Abby, I see your hand up there.
Thank you, Chair. Just to touch base about what Paul said about the responses, I did end up pulling up the survey responses here. We had 110 participants go through the survey. The number one sport that would be wanting to be participated on the multi-purpose court is outdoor hockey, second being basketball, third being tennis, fourth volleyball, and fifth pickleball. And the top two concerns, or the top two features wanting to be included, was lighting and landscaping. Just to give some background on that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
If I may, on the survey, lighting included was a top feature, but then in the comment section, it was one of the biggest complaints.
All right. Okay. And we're going to go to Ian and then to Keith, please.
The lighting can't that just be put on a timer? And so at a certain time they go like 9 o'clock, then it's done, right? And so if there's signage that and within our info through the website or flyers that go out with municipality, this is the time that it's done. And then it gives those families that, you know, they work late and they want an opportunity to do something later. That it isn't, and that changes the demographics too. So then, you know, during the day it could be younger kids, and later on it could be adults or older kids, right? And so then that's just an option. I know that happens with the outdoor rink in Nairn, and then at North Middlesex with the multi-use tennis courts, and they have tennis courts with the pickleball on the tennis courts as well. And then they have the side, they have one tennis court that is totally changed to a basketball court, but then they have option for outdoor ball hockey as well. So just a thought there.
Great. Thank you, Ian, and Keith, and then Todd.
I was just, Ian's pretty much summed it up there with like with the grant, the lights go out at like 9:45, and as far as I know, there's no issues. I prefer the lights, just as Ian said too. Like if you're late at night, especially when you get into the fall season, especially if we're talking hockey, and basketball, which when that season starts, kids want to be out there a little bit later. So I agree, like putting lights up, and you don't just put a timer on them. And yeah, I think that's a great idea with the basketball and the nets. It kind of solves the problem. That was a busy activity, Linda. Yeah, it's just something like communities just got to, you know, stick together and, you know, figure it out, I guess. I don't know. There hasn't been too many issues over at the tennis courts. Answering Paul's question with the basketball is, I think it all depends on the type of day. Like I think the day for tennis or pickleball is probably during the day, and the basketball, the kids come out at night. But who knows? It can start changing shortly again. I don't know. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Paul, go ahead, please.
If I may,
No, sorry, go ahead. Paul, go first, and I'll go back to Todd. Yep.
If I may, obviously, yeah, we definitely would have, you know, our dusk till dawn signs up, you know, I believe in the other parks, it's nothing after 10 PM. So that's not a problem. Signage is key. And for sure, even maybe with the tennis net in the middle, you could have basketball on one side, ball hockey on the other. So there is ways to, hopefully, as a community, we can all play together. And I have had a lot of people reach out from that neighborhood, actually adults that are looking forward to actually having some outdoor basketball in their neighborhood. So I could see totally, to Ian's point, you know, you get people coming home, they've worked till 6 o'clock, they want to go home, have something to eat, and then maybe get together with their neighbors and play a game of basketball. Lights would be a great idea.
Thank you, Paul. Sorry, Todd, I just wanted that addressed first. Okay, go ahead, please, sir.
Yeah, you know what? I think everything that I was going to say has already been addressed as well. Other than the fact, just pointing out that wintertime, I mean, it seems to get dark around 5 o'clock sometimes. So lighting really would extend the use of that. Not talking about into the evening hours, but certainly we need to get full use out of the resource for the community.
Thank you for that. Todd, thank you. Okay, still looking for any more comments, questions, concerns, discussion on 7.2. I don't see anything. Okay, thank you for that, Paul. And we'll do a 7.3 soccer field update and the layout, and that is also Paul.
Just bring up the layout here. So we have gone through the preliminary engineering with the soccer fields. We've gotten all the topographics. We've gotten the grading all complete. The final design, we've worked with the Soccer Association to really come up with a great plan for the soccer fields. As you can see in front of you, there's 4 fields planned. These fields can also be used as side-to-side fields for the smaller age group. Plus, we still have the ones up at the community center. The center field here, the plan is to actually make a premier field. This field would be fenced in. It would be, kind of top of the line kind of field. We'd have netting in behind to prevent balls going into the other games. And this would be our top of the line for the more competitive. As it's been brought up with the Soccer Association several times, Lucan does not have a competitive team, and they're hoping that, having a premier field, we might be able to bring some more competitive players back to Lucan and keep them in Lucan. So I think this is going to be great for the community. We're hoping to have this tender out by next week. And if all things go to plan, we will hopefully have some more updates for the group. I'd leave it to the committee. Just if you have any questions, thoughts, please share.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. Stephanie, do I see your hand up? Sort of. You go right ahead. Thank you.
I thought I saw in the attachment that was sent out that there was a playground area, but I don't see that on the plan that you showed. Is that in the plans or? I think it's.
Oh, you're still on. There you go.
There we go. Okay, yeah.
I can only see one person at a time right now, and I lost my mute. So in the preliminary design, they kind of put aside an area that would be ideal if council chooses to put a playground there. I think obviously in the future, it's a perfect location. We should be putting one there. I think right now the plan is to get this project complete. And then, by the time this is all set and ready to go, we'll be in another budget season. So I think at that time, that might be appropriate for council to really look at then. But there's some good areas suggested in there for that.
I think that's perfect. And I think that's great, like looking in the future.
Thank you, Paul. Stephanie, are you good with that answer? Okay. Any other questions and concerns, discussion on this? I'm just sliding through, looking for anyone. Wayne, I see your hand up, sir.
So is there drainage and irrigation incorporated in these fields?
Yes, drainage and irrigation are both have been looked at for this. It's all proposed in part of the engineering, as well as lighting for that premier field.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Wayne. Ron, please.
Just through you, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, the irrigation, the drainage, all 4 fields are going to be drained. As far as irrigation goes, just the center one will be fully functional irrigation. We'll have the rough ends for the other 3 fields, but not just the premier field. We'll have the irrigation and the lights. Okay, the other thing I did want to mention, the parking area that you see on the drawing there, that was one thing that was very important to us. We wanted to make sure that that was large enough, because nobody wants to get complaints that there's not enough parking in there, and then the parking starts to overflow and spill out into the existing subdivision there. So we're Paul, do you remember how many spaces there were in there?
I want to say 132 or something along that line. It was way up there. I think they chose enough for having, say you had all 4 games going and you had 1 vehicle per every player.
I think it was 140.
140.
I think it was 140. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I think the issue was if 10 years, 15 years from now, when there's a tournament going on there, you don't want people parking out into the subdivision, because that's just going to cause complaints and traffic issues and everything else. Along the south boundary there's a walkway, and hopefully that will ultimately be a bit of a trail system at some point in time in the future. We will have to extend, I think it's Campanelli Way north, across that 10-meter wide drainage easement and get across there. That's not going to be a cheap crossing. Jaden, you're an engineer, you'll know exactly what we're talking about there. It's got to be, the culverts needed to ensure that the stormwater can continue to flow from east to west underneath there. It's fairly substantial. So we've kind of got our fingers crossed and hopefully can come up with an economical way to do that, because the subdivider isn't ready to develop there yet. In a perfect world, you would be able to partner with the subdivider when the subdivider is doing all of his construction out there and get that roadway in, and then the taxpayer doesn't have to pay for it, the developer pays for it. But I think it's not going to be built to subdivision standards. It's not going to be paved at this point in time. Anyway, it'll be simply gravel for the time being. At some point in time, we could choose to pave that. The other issue is the change house. Paul, Paul has been in touch with the Lincoln Minor soccer people, as have I, to talk about the size of the change rooms. How big of a building do we actually need? Excuse me. The construction costs, I don't think I have to tell anybody on the screen what construction costs are doing right now. It's kind of scary. That is going to represent a large portion of the overall cost of this, the development of these fields, this whole complex. So I think, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're going to sort of have that as a pull out. If the number is too large, we can pull it out. We don't need that change room right away. We could technically do that change room in the spring of say 2023, because the plan is to develop those fields, seed them all down, get them growing in time for play in 2023. But that play doesn't start until probably probably close to the end of May in 2023.
Yeah, if I may, so the change house itself, like we spoke with the soccer association, obviously, like since the beginning, they've all said, right now we need fields. So the main thing, if they need fields with, porta johns at the time being, that is more than acceptable. If it really helps get this project completed, we still think it's appropriate though that we should at least put it out there as maybe even we might even do it as a separate RFP, just to kind of shape that portion of the project, just to kind of see what the numbers come back at, because obviously borrowing rates right now are very good. It might be wise, you don't want to piecemeal everything together. It might be wise to do it all at once. So, we really want to see what that option looks like. The irrigation and the lighting controls, there's some temporary options we've discussed about housing those. They're quite simple as a fire hydrant for the time being until that house gets built, and then it can actually be incorporated into the facility later. So, we're looking at all our options, all our avenues to, if we need to reduce things off to make the project, within our means as a community, that we have those options.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Ian, you had your hand up, sir.
Thanks. My question was answered about the washroom facilities. So just using porta johns, I guess, for the time being until the pavilion change rooms would be hopefully built. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Paul. Any further, and I'm just going to scroll through here. Sorry. Any further questions, comments? 7.3 soccer field update. And I do not see anything at this time. Okay. We will move next to number 8, roundtable discussions. What do we have? Not seeing any hands. Oh, I do. Colin, go ahead.
I've got one. I have been, over the last few months, I've been passing a little bit of blame on the location of the playground at the Lucan Community Center. And I felt a little bit like I must have missed something because I just did not recall the conversation, and I didn't know that it was going to be going quite as close to the ball diamond. And I know I've been a real pain, likely in Paul's backside over the last little while trying to get that answer. And I am grateful between him and Daniel, and I think Lisa posted the video of our last meeting, and it was certainly discussed where that playground was going to go and how close it was going to be to the ball diamond. We didn't have a big attendance at that meeting. I was actually a little distracted. I was at the community center. I was, I think, running the time clock while I was also on a prac meeting. So I was not as dedicated. So I guess I just kind of wanted to say that out loud for a couple of reasons. One, Paul, I think that you gave us all of the information that you should have. But we likely should have pressed you to get a little bit of more information on where that playground was. I'm grateful that, as I understand it, there have been a few concerned citizens that reached out to council and the mayor and had that playground moved by 20 feet or so. So I guess I have a couple points. One, it's important that our community stays engaged and reaches out to council and the mayor. It's not like we're going to get all of the decisions correct right here in this meeting, even when we try. And number two, I would also say it's pointed out to me, I've always tried to be the devil's advocate. I've tried to ask difficult questions that maybe Paul hasn't always wanted me to. But if I missed that opportunity at that last meeting, I also wonder if I am wearing out my usefulness on this committee. So I would just likely say that I'm not exactly sure where we are at with our terms. And I think that we were in line with maybe council terms, but likely when you have someone that is looking to join the committee, it's likely time for me to pass my baton on to someone else who is going to ask Paul difficult questions and keep him on task going forward. Because I do think as a committee, I will 100% take blame for not being engaged in that specific discussion. But I think we let Paul down and we let Lucan down by letting that playground initially get put as close to the ball diamond. I'm glad it got moved, but I feel like I wasn't as engaged as I should be. So I just wanted to share all of that.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Colin. Well, I can assure you, you're an extremely valuable member. So we all missed it. I missed it as well too. So I remember that. I remember the conversation, and I did rewatch that earlier this afternoon after you and I had that conversation. But you're absolutely right. We need to, and I think, and it's not an excuse, but I think with everything that's going on for the last 2 years, sometimes we become a little more focused on ourselves as opposed to. So I don't think there's any real blame, but it did work out, and I'm glad that you got the answers that you needed to get. I'm glad about that. All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments or things we want to bring up for roundtable discussions? And I'm just looking through the group here. And Linda, I see your hand up. Yes, please.
In a very short phrase, can you please verify where this playground's going now? Doesn't need to be lengthy, just
Nope.
basically where's it going?
Paul?
It is in place. It is behind the pool house. So based upon some of our previous conversations, I know Abby and myself way back, I want to say it was January 2019, we had brought to the committee, we talked about, near the community gardens. And then I know that the issue was brought up at that point, if it's ever a roadway that's way too close to a roadway. And there was conversations about maybe closer to the dog park, but then that's so far away from the other activities. So it might be nice to have it as a centralized location, because obviously where it is now, like the old playset was ideal because it was, right in the middle of everything. So I think what ended up happening is it's located centralized still between the community center, the pool, the soccer fields, and the baseball diamond. It's closer to the track now. We actually had to cut maybe like a foot or two into the track. Track's still perfectly usable for walking. It's actually much wider on that side. As some of the Lions members on the committee know, that side of the track was widened years ago for the tractor pull. So it can go narrower. It's far more narrow on the further side. So now it's actually, we'll have that track so when we have the new the parking and all that, we'll have that track as a nice buffer area. And then you have the playground equipment's right there behind the pool house.
Okay.
And then you have a row of trees that'll act as a natural barrier. And then you have the soccer fields to this side, baseball diamond to this side as well. We are still going to put netting up in the foul ball area. Just, there are some communities, they have splash pads in their outfields, but because it was raised, we should address it. And I think it can't hurt to put netting up, because worst thing could happen is, you don't want a kid to get hurt. So if we can do our due diligence to try and, mitigate that and make sure it doesn't happen, we should. So we're still going forward with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Lynn?
Thank you very much. In Colin's defense, I remember all of the debate, but I don't remember the end result either. So thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Thank you, Paul.
If I may, through you, Chair, also, I don't mind the tough questions. I enjoy a good devil's advocate now and then. I mean, it's not the same since Speaker's Corner's not around, but it's always useful to have a devil's advocate, because, sometimes we don't think of things, right? It's you're not questioning me, or even if you are questioning me, it doesn't matter. That's how that's the whole point of this group, is have good, constructive conversation, so then we can get the right, view of the community to bring forward to council. So by all means, ask away. And I very much value it and appreciate it. So.
Okay, one last question.
Yes, of course.
We went through quite a bit about the fundraising aspect of our community center project. Will we come back to that next meeting as to what's happening with that?
Yeah, Paul, please go ahead. Yes.
If I may, I believe now that we've had the tender finalized, we're having a meeting of our fundraising committee in the next week or so. And then I'm sure at one point we're going to be bringing in this committee as a kind of part of that campaign. So we're going to have that leadership group kind of formalized. So we got the community campaign they're working on, business campaign, and then, we're going to see where, as volunteers, everyone can kind of fit in there, because I know you're all very busy, but if you have the opportunity, I'm sure you'd all like to be involved. So.
Okay, is that okay, Linda?
Excellent, thank you.
Right. Okay, thank you very much, Paul. Ian, I see your hand up, sir.
Linda, I thought you'd be asking the question about the color of the new facility, because you didn't really like the color. A lot of people didn't like the color of the playground or the YMCA daycare. So I just waiting for that to come. Just have a little humor.
No, that's not me. I love the green.
Thank you, Ian. Any further questions, or sorry, not questions, any further roundtable discussion, any issues that need to be brought up? I see Paul, please go ahead.
I guess if I may, through you, Chair, I should have also addressed Linda. We did set a campaign goal at our last fundraising meeting of 750,000. We thought that's a very realistic, if not modest, goal. So given that the 8 million tender came back, that would be fantastic if we reach that. And if we get better, even better. So just so everyone's aware, that's the goal that we're kind of working with for the campaign to start off.
Thank you, Paul. further discussion, roundtable discussion? Anyone? And don't see any. We have to move to think about the next meeting. Paul, what dates are you thinking?
I think with everything going on, I was going to propose, we don't want to go too long. I know originally, this committee was supposed to be 4 times a year. There was years where we had so many meetings that we couldn't even count because we had so much going on. And then there was COVID where we didn't have a lot going on. But I think at this time it would be appropriate to maybe aim for the end of February. So if everyone's good to continue with Wednesdays, I would point to February 23rd.
February 23rd? Okay, so we'll just, we'll book that. You'll send out, do we need to send out one of those little, what do they call them? The doodle thing, or just for people to confirm?
If
I don't
the
know
committee,
I don't know what they're called.
if the committee would like, I can do that. Maybe we could put one out for the last 2 weeks of February, just to kind of see, if there's days that work better for everyone, because you all have jobs and lives outside of this, and prior commitments. So it's good to give you options.
All right, fair enough. So, okay. So right now, tentatively for 6 o'clock on the 23rd, but there should be some options there for people, I think. So, okay, fair enough. There is nothing else. Just again, I just want to, before we adjourn, thank you very much, everybody. It is a pleasure to work with all of you. I know we do a lot of good work, and there's a lot of good information for this evening. And I think we should all be very proud of what's going on. There's a lot going on. So just with that, I just asked for a mover and a seconder to adjourn our meeting at 7:38. And a mover, and Linda's moving it, and we're going to second it. Nobody wants to second. You want us to hang around? Oh, there we go, Ian. No, anybody opposed? None opposed. Okay. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good rest of your night. We'll see you next week.